This is 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. My name is Sam Strash. Thanks for tuning in to Hawk Talk. We only have a few more weeks to go, but let's get you a really exciting show. That rolled off the tongue well. We got Ryan Hoke, we have Alyssa Walzak, and Evan Chrisman in the fishbowl by himself today. Evan, how's it going in there, pal?
Pretty well. I'm the only fish swimming around in here, but it's good to be back on this Monday show. I know we got a lot to talk about, but yeah, it's definitely very interesting in the sports world right now.
Absolutely, there's a lot going on in the NBA realm. We're going to get to the Bucks today. We're going to get to the NFL draft coming up soon. We're also going to touch a little bit more on the NBA as well with a segment that we haven't done in quite a while. We're going to bring it back. This is one of Drew's favorite segments from last semester called Better or Worse. But that's going to come up today. You guys out here, how are you feeling today?
Well, I mean, I'm feeling great, obviously. It's been an all right day. The only bummer part about it is the weather. I mean, it goes from 80 degrees to 39 at the drop of a coin. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, not to spoil anything here or anything, but I'm excited today for that draft topic we got going on for the NFL today. It's going to be really fun to talk about. I got a lot of stuff to put on that.
Absolutely, yes. We're going to get started right away with our Warhawk Thought. First, we'll get to the NFL Draft preview at about the 25th minute of the hour today. But today's Warhawk Thought involves movies and movie watching. Guys, what is your favorite sports movie of all time and why? Alyssa, let's start with you. What's your favorite sports movie you've ever watched and why?
Mine would be Space Jam. The first one with Michael Jordan. The second one is good. The first one is just better. It has more animation to it. It's more original, where the second one, they were just trying to remake it, and it wasn't as good as it could have been. So I would just prefer the first one.
Yeah, for sure. And the first Space Jam, very iconic. Michael Jordan making his screenplay debut with the cast of the Looney Tunes. You know, that's something that, I watch it every time, and I can't really get enough of that one either. Evan, let's go to you. Favorite sports movie?
I'm going to see if you guys can guess mine. Do these two actors, actor and actress, remind you of a movie? Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw.
That's got to be The Blind Side, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I love The Blind Side. You two ever seen The Blind Side, the Michael Oher biopic? Yes.
That's such a good movie. It's based on a true story, in fact, and it just, personally to me, it just shows that there's still good in the world because the Collins family brought in, obviously, Michael into their home when he was struggling, and then he turned out to be this star at Ole Miss, and then with the Ravens, and then just just so much good scenes in that movie, all put into one giant, excellent movie. Just really, really captivates the heart of the audience.
For sure, and now lately I've actually been seeing, on the social media, TikTok especially, you're seeing a lot of these videos where people are posting movie clips. I'm not going to narc anybody out because that's technically not legal, but seeing a lot of these movie clips out there, and The Blind Side is actually one I've been seeing a lot recently. Swipe to the page and then scroll through a few, get a few scenes, be like, this was a good movie, wasn't it? Ryan, we'll go to you. Favorite sports movie?
Well, first off, to what you just said about TikTok there, it's cool. The coolest thing about those movie pages is that it sums up the whole movie in like 5 clips. So it's like I just watched the whole movie by just scrolling around on TikTok. It's pretty nice. But anyways, my favorite movie of all time for sports comedies at least, is Major League. I'm a big fan of this movie. Always been one of my favorites growing up. I'm a big Charlie Sheen fan, so him being the wild thing in this movie is just awesome. And the whole movie is just really funny itself. And my dad, one of his buddies, is actually like the whole movie took place actually at the Brewer Stadium back in the day.
Yeah,
because it was like the nicest one back then.
Yep, Milwaukee County Stadium.
Yeah, so they were at the time they're playing as the Cleveland Indians, and then they're acting like they're in Cleveland this whole time when they're actually in Milwaukee. So my dad's buddy, and he's also a former fraternity brother of mine. He was actually out in the stands as an extra on one of the shots. So it's like it's funny. My dad always loves watching it.
Some people paid to be an extra in that movie, and then got obviously going to get compensated in return to be a crowd member. But yeah, on those road trips the Brewers would make back in the late '80s when that was being recorded, they'd pay for you to go watch Charlie Sheen on the mound and watch like 20, 30 takes to get all the different angles right and all this jazz, and Bob Uecker playing Harry Doyle up in the radio booth. Beautiful day for Major League Baseball, and he's like 6 beers deep. Or is he supposed to be? My favorite sports movie, and this is one that came out a little more recently. It's called Greater. It's the Brandon Burlsworth story. For those of you who don't know, Brandon Burlsworth was drafted in 1999 by the Indianapolis Colts, an offensive guard outside of Arkansas. Made it to one day of OTAs or training camp over the summer, I think it was. I got OTAs on my mind now because OTAs are starting today, actually, which is why we're going to talk about the NFL draft today as well. Made it to one day of training camp with the Colts and unfortunately passed away in a car accident involving a semi-truck the very next day. He was a walk-on at the University of Arkansas from his home state of Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's the guy with the glasses. He's got the sports goggles, didn't party, didn't drink, didn't do anything like that. He was almost seen as an outsider, but man, could that guy hit a guy if he needed to. He was a great blocker at Arkansas, played all 4 years there, and was a midday 2 draft pick by the Indianapolis Colts. That one's out on Netflix, I'm pretty sure. And that's got to be my favorite sports movie ever.
Looked at as being one of the best walk-ons of all time, right?
He's the best one. The Brandon Burlsworth, I'm pretty sure there's an award for, if someone wants to fact check me on that, I'm pretty sure there is a Brandon Burlsworth award for the top walk-on in the country.
Yep. Yes, there is.
Yes, so
that's how you know you're that good,
Exactly. Brandon Burlsworth is the definition of grit and grind, and holding on to hope and never letting the dream die. That's got to be one of my favorite sports movies of all time. Arguably my favorite. There's other great ones out there, like there's Field of Dreams. Like who doesn't like Field of Dreams? A couple other movies out there. I mean, there's technically Semi-Pro is a sports movie. The Flint Tropics, Will Ferrell.
Any one of those,
Woody Harrelson was in that.
Oh yeah, any one of those hard comeback movies are like the best ones to watch.
Yes, remember the Titans? I mean, that's an amazing movie. What is pain? It's actually French bread. We're gonna keep moving here. Moving on from our Warhawk thought to the biggest story in Wisconsin sports today. We're calling this section the Big Bucks Blunder. So the Bucks fell to the Heat last night in Game 1 of the first round of the NBA playoffs, 130-117. And in the words of TikTok star James Draws, we're going to figure out what happened. And I mean, that's a great question. Think about what really happened in this game. Evan, let's start with you. You watched this game yesterday, Sunday afternoon, evening basketball. We're expecting, the 1-seed Bucks to take out the 8-seed Heat. I mean, the Heat really struggled in the play, and they lost their first game to the Hawks by quite a bit. And then, they beat up a banged up and honestly didn't deserve to be their Bulls team to get to this point. Now they take Game 1. What's going on here, Evan?
Yeah, you got it right there, Sam. What is going on exactly? It's very weird. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, player of the game for the Heat with 35, took over for Hero, who only had 12 before he broke his right hand. Will be out for the rest of the series, if not longer. But yeah, the Heat just caught fire. I mean, no pun intended, but yeah, especially after that Giannis injury, they were kind of like, and for those of you who don't know, the listeners out there, Giannis has a lower back contusion. I think that's what it was. That's what they diagnosed on him. So we'll see if he plays in Game 2. But still, I mean, just after the Giannis injury, Eric Spoelstra, I think that's their coach, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Yep, Spoelstra.
He probably huddled up during the timeout and said, okay, Milwaukee's biggest player's out. And Chris Middleton stepped up, put up 33. Obviously not enough due to the Bucks' loss, but I definitely think I mean, not to put it on this, but with the injuries to Hero and Giannis, I think the series is more even now. It may be a hot take, but Hero is definitely one of those guys who's been stepping up all season for the Heat. Don't get me wrong, Jimmy Butler's a great player, and they have so much depth on that bench that they can do everything with. And the Bucks, obviously, a lot of depth as well. But Giannis, definitely going to come back from a back contusion. Hero, probably not with a broken hand until if the Heat make a run through the playoffs. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the series plays off or plays up to its potential as Milwaukee has one more game in Fiserv.
Definitely. I think that that game yesterday was pretty much just a consistent thing of the Bucks not expecting what to happen there. You know, they obviously probably did not expect that and stuff. They built a whole team around Giannis, and that was a game that really threw everyone off. I mean, everyone was thrown off the whole entire time. I'd say the thing about yesterday was that Jimmy Butler, I mean, he just really stepped up yesterday for the Heat, having 24 in the first half. And then the second half, he kind of cooled down, but then the rest of the team took over there and all just kind of spread the ball around and just went back and forth with it. I mean, that was team basketball in the second half by the Heat there. And, for the Bucks in the second half, it was really Chris Middleton and a little bit of Grayson Allen trying to help out there as well and stuff. I mean, trying to get the Bucks back into control. But I think going on forward here, we just got to, I think also Giannis will be back sooner than later. All it takes really is just him to rest a little bit, and then he's back to normal and stuff. And, I don't think this series is in any sort of trouble really yet, in my opinion, especially because of the fact that Tyler Hero is actually very crucial to the Heat. And I feel like the Heat, I mean, no pun intended here, are kind of on fire with him. And, now that he's kind of gone, they're cooled down. I'll intend that pun there. But, I think we definitely have an advantage out of this whole thing.
So now my question is, where is Duncan Robinson going to start getting rotational minutes again? I mean, this guy, so yes, like we said, Tyler Hero out with a broken hand now. Odds are he will not return to this series, let alone the playoffs. Giannis, lower back contusion. He just bruised his butt. That's about it. I mean, like, you watch the fall that he took on that charge, which should have been, can we talk about that too? Like, holy cow, this officiating crew was nitpicky beyond
They all
nitpicky.
are in the playoffs. They all are.
It's always, yeah.
Nothing new.
It makes no sense.
Right.
I mean, there were like three seconds called in the first half. You don't see a 3-second get called like every 5 games for an NBA team, let alone 3 in one half.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, all of these charges instead of blocking fouls. Like the one, Bam drove his left shoulder into Giannis, and Giannis had his feet planted. And it was called a blocking foul. I'm not saying that there was a bias, but it appeared there was, because Giannis, I mean, Kevin Love, this is Kevin Love's defense.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you got to be kidding me, dude. But credit to Kevin Love for 18 and 8 off the bench in 22 minutes. The Heat overall as a team had 6 players scoring in double digits. It was their best 3-point shooting game as a team this season at 60% on the nose. And it was also, if I'm not mistaken, this is the most points they've ever scored in a playoff game in franchise history. Got to remember, this
Really?
Heat franchise is not that old. 130 points.
But they've had some great moments.
They've had amazing moments, yes, but you also got to remember that most of their playoff success has come in an era where high-scoring games like this didn't really happen. Like
Very true.
Even just back 10 years ago, like the very end of the Heatles with LeBron, Wade, Bosh, Mario Chalmers, Birdman, Anderson. I mean, those teams, like a lot of those finals games against the Spurs, only had one team scoring in triple digits. Like this 130 points, you don't really see this that often. And this is obviously like Gabe Vincent, 15 points on 83% shooting. Jimmy had 35, 11, and 5. And he only took one 3-point shot and missed it.
Really?
And ended with 35 points. Alyssa, what did you see out of this Heat team? What scares you about this Heat team going forward for the Bucks?
See, it was a very interesting game. You have Jimmy Butler, like, he had 35 points, Bobby Portis 21 points. They outscored us in pretty much every single quarter. Giannis got hurt, Tyler Hero got hurt, like one of the main people of Miami. And And then you got to think, we still got to play them at least 3 more times. And even with Tyler Hero out and Giannis, you got to think both teams are going to be pushing for this. And you look at their free throws. Miami was 15 for 21. The Bucks were 16 for 22. That's just crazy. And so that's another thing. Like, they just got to pull forward. You got to think. You got to make your free throws. This has to happen. And in the past, with Giannis out, we have done fairly good. I remember a couple years ago when he was out with injury and everyone was all like, we don't need Giannis. We can win without him. And then he came back and just played even more and showed us that even with him, we had to win. So Miami still does scare me. I made my bracket, and I have the Bucks winning over Miami, so I really hope it stays that way because I have them going like almost to the finals. So I really do hope that they will win this round.
Miami, I'm looking through StatMuse right now. The most I've seen them score in a playoff game outside of yesterday is 125 against the Celtics in the bubble in 2020. In the last game of the Eastern Conference Finals before they went to play the Lakers down in Disney World. But like I said earlier, 6 players in double digits, best three-point shooting in a single playoff game in franchise history, 60%, most points scored in a playoff game in franchise history at 130. I mean, this took just a generational game to beat the Bucks. And you look at some of these storylines, like the Bucks ruined a Chris Middleton masterclass. 33 points, 4 assists, 9 rebounds on 60% shooting in just over 40 minutes. Bobby Portis, 26 minutes off the bench. He had 21 and 8 on 60%, but the Bucks shot a season worst 24.4% from 3. I mean, I'm looking at this right now. Evan, we'll go back to you here for this. I'm looking at these storylines here, these stat lines from this game. Losing 130 to 117. We didn't have the best player in arguably the best player in basketball for 3 quarters. We shot terribly from beyond the arc in an era where 3-point scoring wins you games. And obviously it wins you games because they shot amazing from beyond the arc. And I mean, I'm not worried. I can't bring myself to be worried about losing this series. You look a couple years ago, we lost a game to the Magic right away in the bubble. Granted, the next series we lost to the Heat, but the Heat were also, no pun intended, red hot that year. They made it all the way to the finals and took 2 games from a Lakers team that was not losing that year. You think about it that way. The road to the Eastern Conference Finals goes through Milwaukee. And this next round, like, you look at the Cavs and the Knicks, they didn't play any better than the Heat at all. And those teams are arguably both better than the Heat. Does anything worry you going forward in this series and even into the next one? We'll talk about the next one a little bit too. Between theoretically, it would be the Cavs as the higher seed, but the Knicks looked better. They looked like the shinier pile of poop the other day between them and the Cavaliers. We'll just roll with it like that. They both teams played terribly and one had to win. Does anything scare you going forward before the Eastern Conference Finals?
Like you said, Sam, I think 3-point shooting scares me a little. Obviously, season worst, 24% from 3, 11 of 45. That's 11 shots made in 45 attempts. That's like, I would
Not
manage that.
good.
I would. I'm not even an NBA player.
You leave me open in the corner, I guarantee you I can make at least 11 out of 45.
Right, and it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, like, this Bucks team has been kind of average, if not above average, from 3 all season. And they only hit 11 shots from 3. And we still put up 117. And it's just atrocious. I mean, that's literally all you can put it as. And that's one thing that Coach Bud is going to have to kind of take care of in practice, saying, we shoot the ball from 3 pretty well. Obviously, this was not one of our nights. Every team has one of those nights. I get it. 11 of 45 from 3? Are you kidding me? Like, that's... Like, Ryan could shoot 11 from the corner and make them. Like,
money.
No offense, Ryan. I picked you out because I saw you first.
No,
but, like, like it's atrocious, literally. And the Heat are going to come in with a different game plan now because we shot terrible from three, and they're like, oh, this might continue, this may not. How do we adjust to this Bucks team who only made 11 shots from three, then made the rest of their shots from the paint?
I'm looking at the offense, the team overall offensive ratings this year, just in the regular season. The Bucks with a 115.4 offensive rating were in the top half in the league. The Heat had the sixth worst offensive rating with 113. 3-point percentage, the Bucks were nearly top 10. The Heat were in the bottom 5. I mean, you look at the trends from this season, I mean, nothing really concerns me here. It is what it is, you know. They say this in baseball and in football especially, you know, any given Sunday. You know, that phrasing has been around for a long time, that any team can beat any other team on any given Sunday. I mean, you look at, let's just pull teams out of a hat this year. You look at Jacksonville with their run from 3-8 to 9-8, or 3-7 to 9-8, win the division, win a playoff game, down 27-0, come back to beat the Chargers that game, and then the next game, 3 plays go wrong, they lose to the Chiefs. I mean, you think about it that way, the Heat had everything go right for them, the Bucks had nearly everything go wrong for them. And Alyssa, let's assume Giannis is out for the next 3 games. You said it earlier, we're guaranteed 4 against the Heat, 2 home, 2 away. If Giannis is out for the whole series, do we win this series?
If Giannis is out, I do say that we can win. The only thing, you got to think that all these players that we have, you got to have Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, all of them, we got to pull forward for us. You can't just rely on Giannis to do all of the work and then he's not there and say, oh no, what are we supposed to do? You think of, I think it was last year or the year before that when he was out, and then we won a couple games and we're like, oh, we can win without him. We don't need him. But you can't just assume that. You need to think, we need to pull forward with or without him, because then you look at the Heat and you're thinking, there's Jimmy Butler. What does Jimmy Butler do every single year in the playoffs? He plays as hard as he can.
He goes hard.
He will not give up on that. He wants a ring so bad. So you got to think about that. We got to play against Jimmy Butler, the one man that's giving it everything during the playoffs. So if we want to win, that's the one thing we need to think about is how can we stop him?
And he's already going on to Instagram with the picture of the 2 deer staring at the camera today. I don't know if anyone saw that. Catching some deer in headlights there. Ryan, give me some thoughts.
I mean, I think this is just one of those games where the Heat got, not to say lucky here, but they had a good game. I mean, this is the most points they put up in a playoff game in franchise history, you said, right?
Yes.
I mean, what are the chances they're going to do that twice in a series and stuff,
Not very high.
Exactly. So
Not very high.
It's like this was one of those games where they shot crazy well. And obviously that was their benefit there. And I'm really not that worried about it, too, because they got to replicate it again, and that's pretty hard to do. They got to be red hot again. And I don't know. They were pretty impressive for an away team, I won't lie. But, this is that playoff stuff here. I mean, sooner or later, the Bucks are going to get their wake-up call here and be like, hey, we've been here before. Let's do it again.
Well, I honestly think, I'm glad you brought that last point up. I think yesterday was the wake-up call. And it wasn't just a wake-up call for the team. It was a wake-up call for the fans. There was almost no fan engagement there last night.
Really?
At Fiserv Forum. Well, with the Deer District right now being very limited to just a small area outside the stadium plus a bar area, and, excuse me, most fans that are going there have to go to neighboring restaurants and such like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's not shutting it down, but it's very limiting right now. And I understand why, because I was there for Game 6 last year against the Celtics.
Oh, were you?
Yes, I was. And that was the fastest 40-yard dash I've ever run in my life.
My buddy was there, too. Yeah,
yes.
You told me about that.
It was scary. Well, obviously, for those who don't know, there was an altercation down the block at a local bar in downtown Milwaukee, really close to the Deer District, and involved a firearm. Shots rang out, and the person who was doing the shooting fled towards the Deer District, and everyone was freaking out about it. No one in the Deer District got hurt or killed, thank God, anything like that.
I was actually at that game.
You were at that game too?
Deer District, yeah.
I'm trying to leave, and I'm walking by, like, you know, like there's the little metal fencing where you just like open it a little
Yeah.
bit and you walk out or you jump over it if it's connected. And I get shoved straight into that. And I'm like turning around. I'm like ready to stand my ground. Like, what is going on? You know, I'm trying to get out of here too, dude. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
I look up and everyone's just running. And I was like, oh boy, like, here we go.
Yeah.
And took off out of there. And thank God, you know, no one ended up getting hurt or anything like that. And it was an isolated incident. But yeah, like limiting the Deer District right now, I understand why, but it's certainly not helping fan involvement. And then last night, the stadium was not very packed in the fourth quarter. It was still a game. The Heat really only won after the first quarter. Like, they won the first quarter, and that was about it. It was really tight after that game, or after that quarter. And, I mean, you look at it this way, the Heat have always had our number from just the eye test. You know, there aren't many games, except for the 2021 playoff run when we swept them 4-0, that started with a Chris Middleton game winner. I honestly thought I saw shades of that going into the game yesterday, or going into the fourth quarter especially. I saw, you know, some shades of that happening again, and it never did. But you know, this is going to be a tough series. This is going to be a tough series. No opponent's going to be easy to take on. Like you said, Alyssa, Jimmy Butler's ring hungry. He's the leader of this team, and he played like it yesterday. But we're going to switch gears a little bit here as we move on to our next topic involving the NFL Draft. The NFL Rookie Draft is just over a week away, and what we're going to do today is take a look at some of the biggest names in the draft, some under-the-radar people to keep an eye on, and most importantly, what players we want to see our favorite teams take. Obviously, with a realistic, you know, basis. I'm not going to say I really, really, really love the, let's insert, who lost to the Eagles in the NFC Championship? Who was that this year?
The 49ers, right?
The 49ers. I'm not going to say I'm a 49ers fan and I want Will Anderson.
Yeah.
You know, Will Anderson, according to CBS Sports, is the prospective number one overall pick to the Panthers. But Ryan, do you see the Panthers going edge rusher?
I mean, honestly, no. I think they're really in a quarterback position right now. This is a weird quarterback draft in my opinion because of the fact that this is one where it's like there, in my eyes, is no sure pro here. You know, like usually
There's no surefire number one.
Usually you have a guy out of the quarterbacks that stands out that's like, that guy's the next Peyton Manning, or maybe he's like a Michael Vick type player, or I see prime Cam Newton out of him. I mean, they're saying this a lot about Anthony Richardson a lot, that he's going to be like the new Cam Newton, but like, is that really a good thing to be the new Cam Newton? I mean, I get that and stuff when he was good and everything, but it's like, that also means that you're foreseeing his career to be like short and probably injury fueled, because there are players who run like that and play like Cam Newton are not going to be playing in long careers, you know?
This is fair, and I do see the Anthony Richardson Cam Newton comparison, and the Panthers do like him. They want either him or Stroud, and if there's another team that wants Stroud more, they're going to trade up for that first pick. The Panthers could easily trade down and find Richardson in like the late single digits, early double digits of the first round. I mean, you look at some of these other teams that need a quarterback that might not get a top quarterback. Let's look at the Raiders. Let's look at, I mean, the Saints just got Derek Carr, but who knows what Derek Carr is going to do in a brand new field. Maybe the Saints take a flyer on a late first round quarterback and they want to move up for someone who's more surefire. I mean, you look at other teams like the Jets. There's no traction with Aaron Rodgers right now. Who knows what's going on with that? Maybe they want to trade up from 13 and the Panthers move down and they can take Richardson late. I mean, there's a lot of different outcomes that can happen, but Alyssa, if you were to give me the biggest quarterback, let's say, who's the best quarterback coming out of this draft in your eyes right now?
I mean, personally, my one thought was I heard a lot of, like, talking about him this week, but it was the Quentin Johnson guy from TCU. Like, I've just heard, like, quite a few things about him this week that made me think, oh, like, who would draft him? And then I heard talk about, like, the Packers possibly. But I was just going back and forth on that, like, oh, I've heard talk about him. Do you think that would be a good idea? Like, what team seems best for him?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. And that is something that we can jump into right away right now, honestly, if we want to. You know, who our favorite teams would want to take. And Quentin Johnston, yes. Quentin Johnston, I would love to see in a Packers uniform. There's 2 receivers I want out of this draft if I'm the Green Bay Packers. And whether it's because we trade up for 13 in an Aaron Rodgers move, or it's because they fall to 15. Quentin Johnston, there's evidence to suggest that he might just straight up fall to 15. And it's because of, the emergence of Jordan Addison after he transferred from Pitt to USC. Jackson Smith and Jigba is up there out of Ohio State. Zay Flowers is a big under-the-radar guy out of Boston College. He's currently the number 20 ranked prospect in the draft, according to CBS Sports. But Quentin Johnston, currently the highest ranked, according to CBS, at 13. Jordan Addison at 30. You got Jalen Hyatt at 65. But Quentin Johnston, he had a kind of a down NFL combine. He was in like the mid-30s and 40s in terms of overall athleticism and skill-based assessments. I mean, strength too. But he still was able to put up 1,069 yards receiving this year, 6 touchdowns in 2022 with Max Duggan at quarterback. He was a first-team All-Big 12 selection this past season, his second straight year on the All-Big 12 team. I really like Quentin Johnston at 13. I'm glad you brought that up, Alyssa. Is there anyone else, or at 15, sorry. Is there anyone else at pick 15 you could see the Packers taking?
I mean, I don't really know how to say his name, but we're going to say Peter S. I don't know how to say his last name, but I just thought about him thinking, like, with David Bakhtiari possibly leaving, like, he could be a fit. Like, theoretically, who knows what's going to happen to him. But that was my first thought when I saw that. Because they were like, good runner, he's good at doing this and that. So that was my initial thought was, if David Bakhtiari actually leaves, then he could be a good replacement for him.
I love that pick, Alyssa. Peter Skoronski, left tackle out of Park Ridge, Illinois, Northwestern University, stands 6'4", 313 pounds, 10-inch hands. That man's got big hands. In terms of production score at the combine, first among offensive tackles. Athleticism score, fourth among offensive tackles. Total score, first among offensive tackles. There's a, excuse me, little tickle in the throat again today. There is also evidence to suggest that Peter Skoronski could fall to 15. If the Packers trade up, that means even more that we could take Peter Skoronski, and that's a guy I do like seeing, I would like to see in Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers build a lot around their offensive line. Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be, he'd still be an amazing quarterback, but he wouldn't be the Aaron Rodgers we know today as this play creator, playmaker without the help of a strong offensive line. The offensive line doesn't make Aaron Rodgers, but they certainly assist Aaron Rodgers. And in terms of now Jordan Love being the consensus QB1 in Green Bay, what better way to start off Jordan Love's starting career in Green Bay than having a productive left tackle, because we don't know what David Bakhtiari is going to do, like you said, Alyssa. I really like that. Evan, your favorite team, who do you like?
Well, obviously I like the Packers. But I actually 2 wide receivers I could see instead of the Packers front office getting offensive lineman first round or tight end or kicker, because who knows when Mason Crosby's going to retire. But,
Never.
Right.
He's an Iron Man.
He's going to die in that Packers jersey.
Buried him 6 feet under Lambeau Field.
Right. But this is, I just want to get this out of it. This is a heavy QB class. And I was talking to Sam about this earlier in the day before we went on the show. Going from Levis to Anthony Richardson, Levis out of Kentucky, Richardson out of Florida. Max Duggan, even from TCU, that national championship team just a year ago. And just this QB class is just heavy. And I'm looking at some of these rankings. Tanner McKee out of Stanford, top 10, they think. And again, Stanford, tough conference, Pac-12. You got Oregon, Washington, who am I missing? UCLA, USC, all those top teams. He emerged, and now he finds himself in the top 10. And I could see him going to the Raiders, personally. But somebody who I want to see in a Packers uniform, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he would look good in green and gold from Ohio State, even though I dislike Ohio State to the max. I think that'd be a great pickup. Along with Cedric Tillman, wide receiver from Tennessee. I feel like he would also be a great fit for the Packers. 12 TDs last year, averaged about 17 yards per catch. And, Rodgers did those little check down passes, 2, 3 yard, 4 yard gains. Jordan Love with Tillman or Najigba, who can go deep possibly every single time. Talk about an air raid offense. I mean, that's the formula right there. And obviously, we have Christian Watson, who's already developed.
Dobbs.
Dobbs might be still a bit of a project, in my opinion.
Slot guy.
Right. And Samori Toure, who's
Everyone
up
raves
and
about
coming.
him. Everyone raves about Samori Toure.
Right. And just from these two wide receivers, if possibility, if we pick Tillman and Najigba up, I think that would be a great look for this Packers offense, try to get into that air raid class. And something I just spoke to that, I don't know if you saw it, Sam, but Hendon Hooker,
Yep.
Tennessee QB,
I have him
NFL
here.
scouts believe that he could drop to second round.
Yes.
And, he was saying to himself, I'm first round. He's not like Will Levis who puts mayo in his coffee, but
I nearly tried that this morning. I honestly gave it legitimate thought to try it, just to see. I'm curious now because I like them both. I like mayo on a sandwich or a burger, and I love my morning coffee. It gets me going. I had 2 cups this morning. I was legitimately curious to try this out. I want to know, Will Levis, what does it taste like?
Should we invite him
Mayo
on the
in the
show?
coffee.
No, I'm joking.
We could try. It would take a lot of logistics, but
Probably.
maybe he gets drafted first overall, and the first thing he wants to do is talk on Hawk Talk.
This is the future.
This is the future of the NFL. Mayo in the coffee.
Yeah.
But Hendon Hooker, I like that you brought up Hendon Hooker because he got Tennessee to where they were last year. Gets hurt, Tennessee falters a little bit.
The ACL.
Joe Milton still, Joe
Right.
Milton still helps carry the way. And as far as I'm concerned, Milton is still there. Hooker,
I think so.
moving on to the NFL, he's currently ranked 58th on CBS's big board. I like that spot for him. Mid to late second round, early day 2 pick. Ryan, we haven't gotten to you yet. Your favorite team. What do you want to see?
Well, I want to see the Packers definitely try to build up that offense there and try to get this offense in control. I want to see us throwing the ball more. I feel like last year was the biggest dishonor we've been doing to Aaron Rodgers, obviously, for the last few years. That, with a guy with a cannon like Rodgers and a great arm like that, we should have been doing nothing but taking full advantage of the air raid. And I think the dumbest thing is to have him be like Tom Brady, where it's like check down and slants the whole time to get you downfield for a game winner and stuff, which is what we kind of done for Rodgers the last few years. And unfortunately now we're too late to realize that. So I think that for Jordan Love, though, we should do him at least the service of giving him a nice wide receiver. And I think that it should be Jackson Smith from Ohio State for sure. I think maybe him. If we could trade up a little bit, maybe for sure. But
He should fall theoretically to 15.
I hope so.
I'd put Addison and I'd put Quentin Johnston in front of Smith and Jigba first.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact: his brother's I think it's either his brother or his cousin, Kanan Smith and Jigba, is currently on the bench for the Pittsburgh Pirates in the MLB.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, you figure that,
I did see
a
something
last
about
name
that. Yeah.
unique, you'd think that, maybe they're related.
Mm-hmm.
Another famous relation before we get back to you, Ryan, Jose Miranda, third baseman for the Twins, Lin-Manuel Miranda's cousin. The guy who wrote Hamilton, one of the most successful Broadway plays of all time. His cousin starts for the Minnesota Twins. Anyways, that was a little bit of a tangent.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. I digress as well. But, I like the other team here, or the other player here, as Zay Flowers from Boston College. I think this guy is kind of a sleeper in here. And, Boston College, not a great team themselves, but he is probably the diamond in the rough there for sure.
Thank you. Finally, someone said Boston College is not a good team.
They're not. And but this guy was probably the only thing that actually stuck out
Right.
of the whole team that sucked. But I think the Packers could look at a guy like this and do something with him because, like I said, I think we need to get this air raid going on here. We need to get this wide receiver core strong, tough, young. It's almost kind of like reverse Dolphins, where we go from having, Dolphins went from having. Actually, what did they have? They had Mark Clayton and Duper when Marino was there, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about that. Yeah, but like beforehand, they had like the Zonka and stuff. So it's kind of like a reverse thing where we had a great, quarterback, and now we're going into the actual good receiver market when we should have probably a year before too. Like,
That's a good call there. Alyssa, let's go back to you here. We're going to talk a little bit later rounds now as we wrap up this subject. What are some names that you think could fall to the Packers like late day 2, so 3rd round, or day 3, 4th through 7th rounds? What are some names to look out for? Because I got a lot, and I love all these guys.
So I was looking at the possible picks that the Chiefs could make, and I kind of looked at these and said maybe the Packers, these could be good for the Packers. So one that I saw is Tucker Kraft. Now, I looked at him and they're like, oh, good receiver, he's good at this, how many yards he had, and I do see him being a possible pick for the Packers. I would say that that's not bad.
Definitely not. What position is Tucker Kraft?
Tight end, I believe.
How would you spell that last name? K-R?
K-R-A-F-T.
Gotcha.
Like
Tucker
cheese.
Kraft of South Dakota State. Tight end, 6'5", 254 pounds. Currently, pro comparison, Jeremy Ruckert, good size and athleticism for his position. Pretty good season out of South Dakota State, helping them get to the NCAA, championship series, Division I championship. They're obviously not bowl eligible, but we've seen a lot of guys, coming out of these smaller name schools. Even though, South Dakota State is not a small school, but in terms of the Division I world, it is a small school. Evan, I know we talked pre-show. Who's this guy coming from Division II, from Grand Valley State? Let me hear it.
Yeah, Grand Valley State, for those listeners who don't know, is an excellent D2 institution. Their athletics are basically just like Whitewater's, but 10 times better. They're always first in everything, top 5 and everything. But projected to be the last pick in the draft going to the Texans, Quentin Barrow, 6'6", 331.
oh,
Absolute monster.
Big man.
And just
Big man.
I'm
I
scared
just
thinking about him.
love seeing these small market schools kind of sending their players off, just like Whitewater did with Quinn Miners. And who else? I know there's another name. Or is that another team I'm thinking of?
I know Ryan Jensen.
Max Myler plays for the Green Bay Blizzard.
Max Myler,
Right.
yeah.
And just these smaller market teams, especially in Division II, and like Alyssa said with South Dakota State, just seeing these small market schools get their players out is just amazing. And Quentin Barrow has that chance if he gets drafted with the number 1 overall first pick. No, I'm joking. But I seriously hope he gets drafted to a team because 6'6", 331 Texans could use a decent offensive lineman.
He's a big guy, and he earned CCA All-Region honors, named All-GLISC first team this year. He was the Grand Valley State Offensive Lineman of the Year. Started in all 12 of his games at left tackle, but a lot of teams see him moving to interior offensive line. I'm going to see if you guys agree with any of these names here for later round picks, for the Packers especially. I got my guys for the Jaguars too, but we're not going to have time for that. Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, the most athletic big man I've ever seen. He's huge. He's 6'7", tight end out of Georgia.
Staple piece
And he's
that
got
team.
speed. We're talking, Ryan, you're talking about an air raid offense. I think Darnell Washington is the first thing we need. First thing we need
it.
outside of a receiver to help boost that. I also like, in terms of defensive players, like a guy to pair on the other side of Rashawn Gary, Adetomiwa Adebaware, the edge
Say it
rusher.
again?
Adetomiwa Adebaware.
From where?
Northwestern. Projected to go in the 40, the 40s-ish.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Listed as a defensive lineman, plays a lot like an edge rusher. He's projected to go 41st according to CBS. This is a guy with freak athlete speed, and especially right off the rip, as soon as the ball gets snapped, this guy's already in full speed. You want a guy that, if you're Green Bay, and you want someone that has blazing speed off the edge, to pair with Rashawn Gary's just raw strength. Like, Rashawn Gary's still like 3% body fat, which is insane. Like, that guy is just a walking muscle. Pairing that with a Debaware and then Kenny Clark up the middle, holy cow, I like that. There's a couple late linebackers too, like Noah Sewell from Oregon and Muhammad Diabate from Utah that I like too. But Ryan, let's get your guys real quick before we move on.
Well, I'm a big fan of any of the TCU guys, I think. I feel like they're all going to be definitely slept on in the draft. But that team had some pretty good players sticking out of it. I would honestly more here like Kendre Miller and definitely Max Duggan. I mean, the thing is, too, is that there's some quarterbacks in this draft, too, that are probably going to be slept on. Like I said, Max Duggan and also Stetson Bennett. I mean, like, nobody's going to probably look at him, really, but he's going to be
He's got the championship experience. I don't know why a team like, let's say, who's a team that's looking for a stopgap quarterback? Like the Seahawks, they just re-upped on Geno.
Yeah.
But who knows what he's going to look like this coming season.
Right.
That might be a fluke. The Niners might be looking for a stopgap until Purdy comes back or Trey Lance figures out how to stay on the field healthy. The Cardinals, because Kyler Murray had a slightly down season, and he's going to be asking for a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Too much Call of Duty.
Correct. I mean, Houston, Davis Mills is Davis Mills. The Colts are going to be looking for a guy possibly. I mean, these teams that need stopgap guys. And why would you not take a chance on a guy who has 2 NCAA championship games of experience
and successfully too.
Correct.
Like I think it's also, I think that should be the most valued thing in this is that how they do on the big stage. A lot of people will say, well, it's Georgia's defense. Yeah, I mean Georgia's defense is the reason why they're there for sure. But it takes a guy who has to be under center to also do just as good, and he did that very well the whole time, I think. And I mean it was pretty nice getting to be able to watch him throughout the season because he did everything right. He did everything pretty much by the book. And, I mean, look, he has 2 rings now because of it. I think that itself speaks for itself. And he's also a Heisman pick, too. Like, I think it was, 5th this year or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, he can definitely show up against these types of players, and he's proved himself there. It's just his age.
Correct. People don't really like that, especially in the NBA draft. Teams really don't like these guys that stay around for a long time. In college, who knows? Maybe they get too accustomed to the speed. But we're going to transition here to another guy with age who also plays basketball in this segment called Better or Worse, where we are going to be debating whether these current and all-time great NBA players are better or worse than this small forward who was originally drafted by the Indiana Pacers, traded to the San Antonio Spurs, won a ring and a Finals MVP there, traded to the Toronto Raptors, where in one season he won another Finals and another Finals MVP, and now plays for the Los Angeles Clippers. In last night's game, 115-110 win over the Phoenix Suns. Kawhi Leonard dropped 38, 5 and 5. Yes, his name is Kawhi Leonard. We're going to go through a nice list of names here to see. We're going to get, some debate here for the last, 8 to 10 minutes of this segment. Who's better or worse than Kawhi Leonard? We're going to start with a relatively easy one, but they have very similar play styles. Very big offensive threats. One maybe a little bit more than the other, but Kawhi is just very swallowing on defense. Chris Middleton, is he better or worse than Kawhi? Evan, let's start with you.
This is hard because Chris Middleton, obviously hometown hero with our Milwaukee Bucks. But if I were to put them in a 1v1 matchup, I'd pick Kawhi. Just because, like you said, Sam, his defense is off the walls crazy, and just his offense is just his paint presence, is just overall amazing to watch. And I watched highlights of the Clippers Suns game last night, and he just looked amazing. He would cook Middleton in a one-on-one.
They got a lot closer numbers than people think. Ryan, Chris Middleton, better or worse than Kawhi Leonard?
Chris Middleton is not even in the same league as Kawhi Leonard.
I think they're closer than you think.
I don't. Let me tell you why. Because the thing is that, Chris Middleton, he's had to deal with Giannis being the front leader of this team the whole time. But Kawhi Leonard, I mean, I'm not gonna lie here. Kawhi Leonard, that Toronto season where he was one and done there and got the championship, just showed so much about him as a player, and it peppered him into the Hall of Fame conversation, and almost as a sure bet, honestly, from it. And it's like the thing is that, I mean, he's had his moments. That's just all I can say is that he's just had his moments.
Alyssa, Chris Middleton, better or worse than Kawhi Leonard?
Kawhi Leonard is better. Like, you just think about it. Chris Middleton, he's only really good when he wants to be. He's not really a good dribbler. You have Kawhi Leonard, 5-time All-Star. Chris Middleton, only 3-time. Just Kawhi Leonard, you don't really see as much action from Chris Middleton as you do with Kawhi Leonard.
See, I think Kawhi is better than Chris, but I think it's by a lot smaller of a margin than people think. Like, Chris Middleton is one of the most underrated players in all of basketball.
Yeah.
You know, looking just career stats-wise, Kawhi 19.6 points per game, Middleton 17, in both of them averaging about 31 minutes per game in both of their careers. Middleton, more assists per game, 3.8 to 3. Chris Middleton, little worse in the field goal percentage department. Kawhi at a near 50%, but Chris Middleton, better three-point percentage. He's played in more games, more minutes, just a slightly fewer points than Kawhi. Kawhi getting more on the boards too, but
They're
Kawhi
both kind of late bloomers.
They're both kind of late bloomers, but I will give a hot take here. I think that if you put Chris Middleton in Kawhi Leonard's shoes, which you can this offseason arguably, he might not get the same money anymore, but he's adamant on declining his player option to test the market. Not that he wants to lead the Bucks, he wants to test his value. I think you'll find a team, maybe the Raptors, or maybe another team in the East that needs a guy who can prove that he can be a number one. Chris Middleton is like that. He may not be the same defensively as Kawhi, but goodness gracious, please, if you're listening out there, go to StatMuse, go to Basketball Reference, go to wherever you find your information from. Compare these two side by side, and you'll see just how similar they actually are. And Middleton's been doing it behind Giannis his entire career, and they're still very similar.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but all I'm saying is that if Kawhi and Chris Middleton flip-flop, we might be talking about Chris Middleton being a surefire Hall of Famer. I'll just leave it at that. Our next name here, we'll go backwards. Alyssa, let's go with you. LeBron James, better or worse than Kawhi Leonard?
That's really easy. It's LeBron James, really easy. You think of LeBron James, he's 4-time champion, almost 20 All-Star games. Then you see Kawhi Leonard, just 2-time All-Star. You think of LeBron James all around to just work it's just kind of easy, simple. LeBron James, one of the most well-known people in the NBA.
The shot volume is definitely what's boosting some of LeBron's stats here. Obviously, way longer career played. So you can't really use ticker stats, but you can kind of average them up. And if you were to put Kawhi in roughly the same amount of games played as LeBron, a little higher minutes rate too. LeBron averaging about 38 minutes per game, Kawhi 31.5 over his career. Kawhi still wouldn't be remotely close to LeBron in points, but it's also because LeBron takes nearly 6 more shots per game. And they're shooting at roughly the same clip. Ryan, LeBron James, better or worse than Kawhi Leonard?
Obviously, I think in this case LeBron is better, but it's funny, in this case is the one where I see Kawhi being more closer in this one with LeBron in this situation because of the fact that I look at Kawhi as being one of those players that is almost kind of like LeBron, where he's had to carry, teams pretty hard. But Kawhi has just been in situations where he's actually carry a team on his back, and he's been successful because of it. He didn't need really all-stars too much for it, but went to Duncan.
Tony Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, both James and Kawhi have storied successes with multiple teams. James being with Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland again, and then the Lakers, and then Kawhi being with San Antonio, Toronto, and the Clippers. But Ryan just stole mine. James is just better, and like you said, I think that's a great point you bring up, Sam, about the shot selection, about James shooting it 6 more times, I think you said, than Kawhi. It just shows that LeBron wants to have high percentages, and Kawhi, obviously, you said he finds himself in situations, I should say, where he kind of has to carry that team, and LeBron, obviously, on the shoulders of many other players on that team. So I'd say LeBron is better.
I'm also going to say LeBron's better. Passing wide, rebounds and passing wise too. I mean, LeBron averages 7 rebounds, 7 assists per game in his entire career. Steals and blocks are very similar. LeBron turns the ball over a little bit more. Worse free throw percentage than Kawhi, worse three-point percentage than Kawhi, but he's also had almost triple the minutes to have those stats pulled up. I think if you give Kawhi the same amount of time, they're similar, but still not in the same realm. We're going to go with 2 more names here. Our first name is going to be Dominique Wilkins. Better or worse than Kawhi? Evan?
Personally, jeez.
It's tough.
It is. It very much is.
This is why we love this segment.
Personally, for me, I would say Kawhi.
Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very slightly, though. Just like Chris Middleton, like you said. Obviously, the ranges are very, very minuscule.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I think I agree with you wholeheartedly here. I think it's very close, but I think Kawhi Leonard is better than Dominique Wilkins. You put them in the same era, I think Kawhi Leonard is up there with Michael Jordan, even. So just comparing them to eras-wise, I mean, Dominique Wilkins was taking 20 shots a game and was shooting far worse than Kawhi Leonard has. He's had double the minutes that Kawhi Leonard has in his career. Kawhi is shooting a near 7% better from 3 than Wilkins did in his career. A lot better free throw shooter, keeps the turnovers down. I mean, the steals and blocks are up too. And I don't see where Wilkins really beats Kawhi other than athleticism. Melissa?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Even though this guy, is he in the Hall of Fame?
Wilkins, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Hall of Famer, you got to, like, compare that to Kawhi Leonard, who's really not yet. But, like, other than that, like you said, better at free throws, better. I'm just going to say Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I mean, Dominique Wilkins, great overall player and everything, but let's be honest here, his career is nothing more than a highlight reel at the end of the day. Kawhi has the real, accolades on there. I mean, I guess the only conversation that would really fit for Dominique is probably best dunkers. That'd be something.
We're going to switch up this last one. Originally, I was going to do DeMar DeRozan versus Kawhi, as like the cap off.
Oh.
Like that one. Just really quick, DeMar DeRozan or Kawhi? Just real quick.
Kawhi.
Alyssa?
DeMar DeRozan.
DeMar DeRozan. Ooh.
Kawhi.
I also have Kawhi here. It is close, but Kawhi is just a little bit better of a scorer, a little bit more versatile of a scorer, better from 3. We have 2 minutes here. We said both Chris Middleton and Dominique Wilkins were worse than Kawhi Leonard. Dominique Wilkins, better or worse than Chris Middleton?
Oh my God. Gosh. I think. Oh my God. That's so.
I would say
Give me Dominique. Okay, I'll take
Dominique
Dominique.
Wilkins, okay.
I didn't think of
I'd say Middleton very minusculely, like smaller than the ranges we've already said, about this. And if the viewers cannot see my fingers, like that.
Yeah, very, very close. Alyssa?
I'd also go Chris Middleton.
I got to do it too. I got to do
I'm
it
selling
too.
tickets here.
It's tough, but it's simply because of the shot, the shot selection. Middleton's shooting, they're both shooting about 45, 46% for their careers, but Wilkins took 20 shots a game and Middleton's taking like 13. And I mean, Wilkins was leading those Hawks teams. You put Chris Middleton in those shoes, Chris Middleton might get the Hawks a ring. I think it's just so much better from 3, and then he's able to keep the ball to himself a lot easier. They're similar in minutes played. Like Wilkins hasn't beaten minutes played, not by much, but
It's a story of 2 different eras.
it is a story of 2 different eras. But I think you put Chris Middleton in that era, he just might be a Hall of Famer.
I mean, well, yeah.
It's tough. It's so tough, but this is why we love Better or Worse.
They'd be like,
Yeah.
why is he shooting that many 3-pointers? That's crazy, you know?
Right.
Absolutely. That's all the time we're going to have for today. We just squeezed that out with about 20 seconds left on the show. Guys, thanks for joining me once again. Here on Hawk Talk, my name is Sam Strash with Ryan Hoke, Alyssa Walzak, Evan Chrisman. You're listening to Hawk Talk here on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. We're going to get you back to the alternative music here in just